Years after graduation, the high school crush who sat next to me had become a major celebrity. At a class reunion, we met again, but he seemed distant and cold. "May I ask who you are?" Everyone thought that Pei Wang had forgotten about me. That was until the news of my accidental death reached my best friend, who, while sorting through my belongings, stumbled upon love letters Pei Wang had once written to me. "Jiang Wei, it's too painful to have a secret crush. I don't want to like you anymore." But further down, there was another line. "Never mind, just kidding." That evening, the news of Pei Wang's suicide out of grief made headlines. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the day of the reunion. Facing the indifferent Pei Wang, I tentatively took out my phone and sent him a message. The next second, his special ringtone sounded. "Pei Wang, 1. I died on a snowy day. While out seeking inspiration, I got lost in the mountains, trapped by the snow, and died of hypothermia." It was a rather undignified death. Upon receiving the news, my best friend Zhou Yuan rushed over overnight, and was gasping for air from crying so hard when she claimed my body. "Jiang Wei, how could you just leave me behind like this? Even if Pei Wang has forgotten you, you still have me." My soul floated in midair, awkwardly digging my toes into the ground. If I hadn't already been thoroughly chilled, I would have rushed over to cover her mouth. This girl, even after being told it was an accident, made it sound like I had died of a broken heart. Couldn't she let me keep some dignity in this world? But clearly, Zhou Yuan didn't see it that way. For some reason, she was adamant that my death was connected to Pei Wang and immediately made a call to him. It took a long while for Pei Wang to answer. "Hello," a hoarse male voice came through, seemingly just woken from sleep. "Zhou Yuan, what do you want? I just finished an overnight shoot." Pei Wang. Zhou Yuan cut him off, her voice mournful. "Jiang Wei is dead." After her words, I heard a long silence on the other end of the phone. Even though I was now a ghost, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. What would Pei Wang's reaction be to my death? Would he be upset? Or would he think it was just the death of someone insignificant? After all, at the class reunion a few days ago, he had been so cold towards me. Amidst the teasing from others, he had coldly asked, "May I ask who you are?" When he spoke, the air around seemed to freeze, facing his indifferent gaze. The courage I had mustered before leaving home seemed to vanish into thin air. All I managed to mutter was, "No, it's nothing." Then I lowered my eyes and didn't dare to look up again. Actually, it wasn't incomprehensible. He was now a top-tier celebrity, and it had been 6 years since we graduated. It was a good thing he didn't remember me, otherwise, I always felt like I was letting him down. "Pei Wang, didn't you hear me?" After a long silence on the phone, Zhou Yuan cried out in questioning. "I said Jiang Wei is dead. She's dead." Thud. A heavy sound came from the other end as if something had hit the floor. Pei Wang seemed to clench his teeth, his voice trembling. "I don't believe it." The next second, the call was disconnected. Zhou Yuan, crying and angry, took a photo of my death certificate and sent it to him before blocking him. I wanted to comfort her, but my hand passed right through her body. In the end, I could only embrace her gently through the air. "Stop crying, silly girl." 5 days after my death, Zhou Yuan brought my ashes back to N City. I didn't have many relatives in China. My only brother, who was on a business trip abroad when he received the news, was now on a plane rushing back. When Zhou Yuan arrived at my home with the ashes, my ragdoll cat had been hungry for 2 days. I had left enough cat food for 3 days, thinking I would be back soon, but I never returned. Zhou Yuan used to visit my place often, and the kitten immediately pounced on her when she opened the door, coaxing her for food. Perhaps the scene evoked emotions, and Zhou Yuan almost cried again. After feeding the cat, it quickly devoured its food. Zhou Yuan then went into the study to start sorting through my belongings. I was a full-time writer and spent more time in my study than in my bedroom. The desk was left just as I had left it, with a photo frame in front of the computer containing a group photo of us friends from high school. In the photo, Zhou Yuan affectionately linked arms with me in the center, while Pei Wang stood on the far right, with people between us. I smiled towards the camera, while Pei Wang's gaze subtly drifted towards me. Now, seeing Pei Wang only irritated Zhou Yuan, she turned to tidy up other things and was about to pick up the photo frame when the cat, having just finished eating, approached. As Zhou Yuan reached for the frame, the cat sprinted forward and swiped at it. The frame fell to the ground, shattering the glass. Startled, Zhou Yuan picked up the cat and then noticed something in the compartment of the frame. Meow. The cat in her arms seemed to realize its mistake and meowed apologetically. Bending down, Zhou Yuan pulled out a letter from the broken frame. Upon opening it, she found a love letter. Not only Zhou Yuan but I too was puzzled. The envelope was yellowed, but the handwriting inside was still sharp. The letter was filled with cryptic yet profound expressions of unrequited love. "Jiang Wei, unrequited love is too painful. I don't want to like you anymore." Further down, there was a small line. "Never mind, just kidding." Our eyes fell on the signature at the bottom right corner, and both Zhou Yuan and I were stunned. It was signed by Pei Wang, the current top star in the entertainment industry, and the high school desk mate I had secretly loved for many years. I suddenly remembered that this frame was indeed a gift from Pei Wang during our senior year of high school. Over the years, I had moved several times, but this frame had always followed me, sitting beside my computer for many years. Back then, I never imagined that the frame compartment hid this secret. recalling the last phone call, where Pei Wang, with clenched teeth and a trembling voice, had said, "I don't believe it." My heart felt unbearably sour. Do ghosts feel sorrow too? I watched as Zhou Yuan immediately took out her phone to remove Pei Wang from the blacklist, but before she could make the call, a notification popped up on her phone from a trending topic on Weibo, #PeiWang suicide hashtag. In the next second, Zhou Yuan almost tremblingly clicked on the trending topic, then she saw a video posted just minutes ago by a marketing account with millions of followers. The video showed an ambulance parked outside a high-end villa, surrounded by security and staff. The camera then abruptly shifted, and everyone saw a hand dangling from the stretcher, slender and excessively pale. Dark red liquid dripped from the fingertips, splattering on the ground, blossoming like flowers. The headline read, "Pei Wang committed suicide by slitting his wrists at home tonight." The content of the suicide note suggests a love martyrdom. Seeing the prominently displayed words, "love martyrdom," on the headline, my mind seemed to lose the ability to think for a moment. No, it shouldn't be like this. It couldn't be like this. How could he die? How could he possibly die? In that instant, countless memories flashed through my mind. Scenes from the past reappeared like a carousel. Finally pausing on that snowy winter day, 17-year-old Pei Wang stood at the bottom of the school building's stairs, reaching out his hand to me. "Let's agree on that, Jiang Wei," he said, his eyes curved into a smile as he looked at me. His lips slightly lifted in a gentle expression that was almost too tender to be true. "In the future, if I become a big star, you'll be my manager." As he finished speaking, a gust of wind swept through, covering the entire world in pure white snowflakes. It all felt like a grand dream. Jiang Wei, I snapped back to reality. "What are you daydreaming about?" "Pei Wang is here," said a concerned Zhou Yuan. I felt a sudden sourness in my eyes. How wonderful. I had actually returned to the day of the alumni reunion. The next second, as I looked up, my eyes met Pei Wang's gaze. In that moment of eye contact, I almost immediately guessed what he was going to say next. "Why are you crying?" The voice in my memory overlapped with the one I just heard. I looked at him blankly. What? Unlike in the past, Pei Wang didn't ask who I was but instead frowned slightly and repeated in a colder tone, "Why are you crying?" As he spoke, he seemed to subconsciously want to reach out his hand but stopped abruptly upon realizing the surroundings. Then he turned his face away, his frown deepening. I touched my face, only then realizing that tears had fallen. "Jiang Wei," Zhou Yuan finally noticed something was wrong. "What's the matter? Are you feeling unwell?" "No, it's nothing." I took a deep breath and hurriedly wiped the tears from my face, pretending to rub my eyes. Probably just an eyelash that fell into my eye. It was embarrassing. Crying in front of him, Pei Wang must have found it utterly bewildering. I cautiously looked up at him. He was talking to Zhou Yuan. Zhou Yuan, now an editor at a fashion magazine, was the only one among us who had professional contact with Pei Wang. So after my death in a previous life, she was able to get in touch with Pei Wang. The reunion had been organized a month in advance, knowing that Pei Wang would come, and many people showed up today. Even as the dishes were served, many eyes remained on Pei Wang. Some people seemed born to be the center of attention. He just needed to sit there to be the focus of the room. With Zhou Yuan between us, I bowed my head and quietly ate. Seeing him again was already wonderful. In this life, if I don't die, then he won't either. After 3 rounds of drinks, the class monitor came over with a cup of wine, insisting on toasting Pei Wang. "Big star, we thought you wouldn't come. You've really honored us this time," he said. Pei Wang smiled and courteously sipped from the cup. The class monitor's gaze then shifted to Zhou Yuan and me. His brow slightly furrowed. "You are, Jiang Wei." As he spoke, the other classmates who were toasting each other also turned to look. "It really is you." Seeing me nod, the class monitor became somewhat excited. "When you suddenly transferred schools during our senior year, we lost touch. I thought you wouldn't come to the reunion. Speaking of which, you were classmates with our big star back then." With those words, I distinctly felt Pei Wang's gaze shift to me following his remark. "Is that so?" I could tell from Pei Wang's tone that he was indifferent, as if my existence barely mattered to him. I've already forgotten. The food in my bowl had grown cold. I chewed and swallowed, my tongue slightly bitter. In the winter of my senior year of high school, I suddenly transferred schools due to family reasons. Just the day before, we were dreaming about the future together, and the next day, I lost all contact. Over the following years, Zhou Yuan was the only one who stayed in touch with me. Her family was well off, and she knew a bit about my family's situation, but never brought it up deliberately in front of me. The next summer, Pei Wang burst onto the scene in a talent show, clinching the championship of that season. That summer, his name was everywhere, his familiar face on TV screens in countless homes, and his songs played in the malls I passed by. It seemed that overnight, I went from sharing a desk with him to being just one in a million followers on his Weibo, and finally, I could openly admit that I liked Pei Wang. Studying away from home was tough. Several times I opened Pei Wang's chat window but hesitated for a long time upon seeing the history of our past conversations. "Jiang Wei, where are you? Jiang Wei, you're late. Jiang Wei, what happened? Jiang Wei, it's snowing. Remember to bring an umbrella." Further down were dozens of missed calls and countless caring messages. The last message was sent at midnight. 9 hours later, Jiang Wei, I won't wait for you anymore. It was New Year's Eve, we had planned to meet, but I ended up not showing. I typed and deleted, and typed in the chat box. Finally, he suddenly called, startled. I saw the caller ID and instinctively answered. The next second, I heard his familiar breathing on the other end. My throat was sore and hoarse. I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. Jiang Wei. The person on the other end almost gritted his teeth. Speak, what does it mean to be typing all this time? I took a deep breath and whispered, are you doing well? There was a pause in his breathing. I had imagined countless times what it would be like when I reunited with Pei Wang, but in the end, I just heard his indifferent tone across the phone screen. Thanks to you, I'm doing very well. After a long silence, I dryly said, then, I wish you more and more success. A skyrocketing career. Beep. He hung up. I was left staring at the screen, crying and laughing. Later, as I had said, he continued to rise to stardom. That grand yet discreet crush from my youth thus came to a close. The dinner was very lively. Throughout, Zhou Yuan tried several times to signal me with her eyes, all of which I pretended not to see and ignored. I knew that Pei Wang hadn't really forgotten me, after all. He could name every one of the 40-some classmates, but was cold only to me. It was hard to say it wasn't intentional. As the gathering was about to end, I stood up to go to the restroom. On my way back, I passed the terrace and ran into Pei Wang, who had stepped out for some air. Seeing me, he casually rolled up his sleeves, revealing his well-defined forearms, and then expertly flicked a cigarette out of the pack. Glancing at me, he bit on the cigarette and asked, do you mind? I shook my head. The heating was cranked up in the private room, and I had taken off my coat as soon as I entered. Having been outside for a while now, I sneezed from the cold. Just as Pei Wang was about to light his cigarette, he snapped the lighter shut again. I looked at him, puzzled. What's going on? Not smoking anymore. But I must admit, the scene just now where Pei Wang nonchalantly bit on his cigarette and glanced over with a mature charm was something I had never seen in him before. My gaze returned and I rubbed my arms, about to head back to the room when, Jiang Wei, the voice behind me suddenly called my name. I turned around instinctively, then I saw the man who had been indifferent just moments ago now looking at me with frustration. He almost gritted his teeth as he forced out, would you never come to see me if I didn't come looking for you? I was momentarily stunned and blurted out, but, you were the one who pretended not to know me first. Shut up. He glared at me. Oh, I immediately looked down. Seeing this, Pei Wang couldn't help but laugh out of irritation. Jiang Wei, do you even have a conscience? What a thing to say. I wanted to whisper a rebuttal, but then thought better of it and let it be. You are the superstar, you are always right, Pei Wang. Ha! He ruffled his hair in annoyance and then turned and strode back to the room. I hurried after him. When I entered, the dinner was just ending. Zhou Yuan, who had been looking for me, saw Pei Wang and me return together and gave us a knowing look. Yo, did you two go out to catch up? Did Pei Wang remember you? I thought about it and nodded. Remembered in anger counts, right? Pei Wang snorted coldly beside me before the gathering dispersed. The class monitor suggested we form a new group chat for easier coordination of future meetups. Since Pei Wang had changed his contact information after becoming famous, the class monitor asked Zhou Yuan to add people to the group. Busy catching up with others, Zhou Yuan casually asked me, Jiang Wei, can you add Pei Wang's secondary number? Oh, I took out my phone and scrolled through the contacts. I had added both his primary and secondary numbers a long time ago but hadn't been in touch for years and wasn't sure. I tentatively opened the chat window of Pei Wang's secondary number and before he could react, I quickly sent an emoji. The next second, I heard the sound of a notification from the phone beside me. Pei Wang frantically tried to turn off the screen, but I still caught a glimpse of the words, special care, flashing across it. Pei Wang, me, what to do? Should I pretend I didn't see it? Before I could think of a way to ease the situation for Pei Wang, Zhou Yuan intervened again. Perfect. Pei Wang, isn't your manager coming to pick you up? You could give Jiang Wei a ride on the way. Pei Wang immediately frowned, his tone reluctant. Why should I give her a ride? I've had a drink too, and it's so late. Should she take a taxi home by herself? That would be too pitiful. Pei Wang glanced over at me. I had just put on my coat, and in my eagerness to meet Pei Wang tonight, I forgot it might snow later. I conscientiously fastened the top button but still left a small section of my neck exposed. I was debating whether to hunch my neck or not, considering Pei Wang was still sulking and probably wouldn't care what I was wearing anyway. The next second, Pei Wang casually grabbed the scarf that Zhou Yuan had draped over the chair and swiftly wrapped it around my neck. He was so quick that I barely had time to react before the scarf was snugly covering my face, leaving only my eyes exposed. There, Pei Wang said after tying a knot and meeting my gaze. I blinked twice. The scarf was tied a bit too tight. I exhaled forcefully, causing my bangs to flutter. Pei Wang seemed like he wanted to laugh, but forcefully held it back. Don't overthink it. He warned me with a stern face. I'm just worried about paparazzi lurking around. It would be troublesome if they captured your face. Thinking it over, I tried to imitate the tone of sensationalist media. Shocking, Pei Wang's late-night rendezvous with a mysterious girl, possible love affair revealed. What on earth do you watch every day, he said, then quickly turned and walked outside. Keep up, okay. At the underground parking lot, Pei Wang's manager, Brother Zhou, had been waiting for a while. As Pei Wang strode towards the car, Brother Zhou rolled down the window to speak, but then saw me, my face tightly wrapped in the scarf, sneaking behind Pei Wang in a half-run. Manager, what's going on here? Just an old classmate, giving a ride along the way, Pei Wang said as he got into the car. I thought about it and then opened the passenger door. On the way back, Brother Zhou tried several times to peer through the tightly wrapped scarf to see my real face, but failed each time. He hesitated to speak, again and again. Finally, he asked, aren't you feeling suffocated? The heater in the car is quite strong. I dare not take it off. Afraid of being scolded or having my photo taken and posted online? I admitted honestly. Brother Zhou laughed. So, you and Pei Wang were high school classmates? Was he always so temperamental back then? From the back seat, Pei Wang clicked his tongue in disapproval. I thought for a moment and then said, not really. He was pretty nice in high school. At least to me, he was nice. So what changed his temperament so drastically after graduating high school? Pei Wang snickered from the back seat. I stayed silent, feeling a bit guilty. Even the manager sensed something was off. What's the matter with you, Pei Wang? If you're uncomfortable, just scratch it. Why are you grumbling while I'm chatting with an old friend? Just drop the person off and cut the chatter. Pei Wang's face turned cold again. The manager fell silent and gave me a helpless look. When the car stopped at the entrance of my residential complex, I thanked them and prepared to get out. As soon as I opened the door, the cold air rushed in, with a crystalline chill unfolding at my fingertips. Ah. It's snowing. Cough, cough. From the back seat, Pei Wang suddenly coughed violently. Close the door, Brother Zhou, unsurprised, explained to me. Sorry about that. He had a serious illness before, and he becomes quite fragile in winter. I paused, then softly advised towards the back seat. With the cold weather, you should probably smoke less if your throat feels uncomfortable. Surprised, the manager responded, what smoking? Pei Wang doesn't smoke. How could he dare to smoke as a public figure? If that got out, he'd be crucified. Pei Wang suddenly kicked the front seat and coughed, his face turning beet red. Shut up, he muttered. I can still tease you. With a bang, the car door closed. I stood there, dazed, watching the back of the car as it drove away. After thinking for a moment, I took out my phone and sent a message to Zhou Yuan. Jiangwei, how do you comfort an angry boy? Zhou Yuan replied quickly. Zhou Yuan, did you make Pei Wang angry? Jiangwei, not really. He got angry out of embarrassment after exposing himself. Zhou Yuan, what did he expose? The fact that he has a crush on me. I didn't dare to tell Zhou Yuan directly, so I changed the subject. Jiangwei, I've thought it over and decided not to go on a trip. Not going on a trip for inspiration also means no accidental deaths. It took a while before Zhou Yuan replied. Zhou Yuan, that's perfect. I'll find something for you to do. The next day, I found out what Zhou Yuan meant by finding something to do. Early in the morning, she rushed to my house, asking me to get ready to take the cat out. Pei Wang's current film crew is short of a cat actor, and I happen to know the producer. He posted on social media asking for help last night, and I immediately thought of your little cat and signed you up. Since Pei Wang is still mad at you, it means he definitely still cares about you. If you hang around him more, maybe he'll cool down after a while. After saying that, she stepped on the gas and dropped me off at the entrance of the film crew. Alright, I have other things to deal with later. I'll come pick you up tonight. Before I could refuse, she had already left me and the cat with the crew members. Meow, the little kitten cuddled in my arms, showing off its clingy nature typical of a rag doll. What a cute little cat. The director will definitely be pleased. A crew member praised. Hearing my little one being complimented, I smiled too. But as soon as I walked into the crew, the little tyrant in my arms flipped over and jumped out. I was startled and immediately joined the crew members in chasing the cat. It was the break time, and several actors were sitting on loungers reading scripts. Hearing the commotion, everyone looked over, and upon seeing that the instigator was a small kitten, they all showed affectionate smiles. What a cute little cat. What color of sack does Mimi like? Chomp chomp. Come here, sister has some treats. Amidst the noisy scene, the person on the innermost lounger finally woke up. The man reached for the script covering his face, his brows furrowed, about to speak. I'm sorry. The kitten ran off. I ran over, still panting, and finally managed to catch the culprit in front of all the actors. Meow. The little guy still thought I was playing with it and wagged its tail, jumping onto the lounger, unexpectedly. A slender hand immediately grasped its neck. The next second, I met Pei Wang's gaze, and instinctively shouted, baby, don't grab. Thud. The script in Pei Wang's hand fell to the ground. His eyes widened in shock as he looked at me, his ears turning red in an instant. What did you just call me? The atmosphere suddenly turned somewhat ambiguous. Seeing Pei Wang's face turning even redder, I hesitated for a second between embarrassing him and causing a misunderstanding. Yuan Bao, come here. Meow. The kitten heard me calling it, shook its tail, and started to struggle. Seeing that Pei Wang didn't react, the little tyrant threw a cat punch, freed itself from his hand, and jumped into my arms. Looking at Pei Wang again, he seemed to be in a daze, still staring at me. I had no choice but to quietly introduce him. This is my cat. Its formal name is Jiang Yuanbao, nickname Baby. Yuanbao blinked its big eyes at the red-faced biped in front of it, its tail waving like a feather duster. And I was thinking about slipping away before Pei Wang could get angry. Well then, if there's nothing else, I'll just as I turned to leave, I was stopped. Jiang Wei. Pei Wang covered his face with his hand. He squeezed out a few words almost forcibly. If it weren't for the people around, I bet he would have exploded the very next second. Don't go. I dared not move again. At that moment, the staff member from earlier finally caught up. Miss Jiang, did you catch the cat? The director wants to see it. I immediately responded, yes, 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 I can't wait to meet the director. After saying that, I walked so fast I didn't dare to look back at Pei Wang. Jiang Yuanbao, the kitten, successfully passed the audition and needed to stay with the crew for a month, playing the male lead's pet cat. When I returned, the break had just ended, and Pei Wang had already gone to shoot. The staff took me around the set, and finally, we went to watch Pei Wang film. Our teacher Pei is really good at acting. You can rest assured with the kitten working with him. I watched Pei Wang, who was filming. The scene was about him reuniting with the female lead after a long separation, facing his childhood sweetheart he hadn't seen for years, displaying a tender smile. In the frame, Pei Wang looked up at the female lead, about to curve his lips into a smile. Then he saw me standing behind the camera. Cut. The director called. Pei Wang's smile is good, but too flirtatious. Let's try that again. Pei Wang. The smile didn't disappear, it just shifted from Pei Wang's face to mine. The director really pays close attention, even to the smallest facial expressions. I found it amusing and continued to watch with the cat in my arms, until a familiar male voice reached my ears. How about it? This guy looks pretty handsome while filming, doesn't he? I turned around, my smile pausing. I just came to visit the set and saw you here, Chi Yan said with a smile, as the assistant director hurried over upon seeing him. Mr. Chi, it's fine, carry on, Chi Yan said. I've arranged for some afternoon tea to be sent over. Thank you, Mr. Chi. The staff members thanked him. Chi Yan just waved his hand. This drama is your investment. I asked him. Yes, the best team, the best script, all set to promote my golden goose, he said, looking very pleased as he watched Pei Wang acting. This guy has the potential to become a movie emperor. Hearing this, I nodded in agreement. Although he came from a talent show, I had to admit that Pei Wang definitely had a knack for acting. But what about you? Chi Yan turned to look at me. What are you doing here? I lifted the cat in my arms and shook it in front of him. The crew needed a cat, so I brought Yuanbao here to earn some money for cat food. All right, I'll make sure he's well taken care of, he assured. I laughed. So, you're interested in Pei Wang? Seeing that I kept staring at Pei Wang, Chi Yan asked. Yes, I nodded. I like him and want to pursue him. Chi Yan. He looked at me in shock. But it seems he's still mad at me. Looking down, I felt somewhat dejected as I stroked the cat in my arms. Forget it. I'll go back and have my brother increase the investment. Your Highness, do you need me to tie him up and deliver him to your doorstep? I burst out laughing, as Pei Wang finished his scene and eagerly looked around. He couldn't find that familiar figure. Don't look anymore. He left early due to some matters, Chi Yan remarked coolly from the side. President Chi. It was only then that Pei Wang noticed his boss had come to visit the set. You know Jiang Wei, such a lucky guy, Chi Yan mused, eyeing Pei Wang. Even though you're my cash cow, she's the little princess of the Su family, way out of your league. Chi Yan had been childhood friends with Su Cheng, so he knew a lot more about the Su family than others might, due to having an older brother as the heir. Chi Yan had grown up relatively freely and was expected to become just another rich second generation without much purpose. However, after graduating from college, Su Cheng invested in him to start this entertainment company. Over the years, it had flourished, making stars out of many, including Pei Wang. With Pei Wang's current status in the industry, his word could easily sway many, but Jiang Wei was different. Upon hearing this, Pei Wang frowned slightly. Her surname is Jiang. Having been in the industry for years, he was familiar with the Su family but had never linked Jiang Wei with them, not to mention, she had never brought it up during their high school days. A Jiang, but part of the Su family. What's wrong with that? Chi Yan asked, now somewhat curious himself. What's your relationship with her? How do you know each other? We were desk mates in high school, Pei Wang said, sounding unexpectedly gloomy. She transferred schools suddenly in our senior year and I haven't seen her since. Senior year, huh? Chi Yan thought for a moment, then realized. That was the year Mrs. Su fell ill. That was when she was brought back to the Su family. Hearing this, Pei Wang looked sharply at him. What did you say? This involves personal family matters, so it's not really appropriate for me to discuss it directly with you. Chi Yan patted his shoulder. Just know that she's now with the Su family. Pei Wang was silent for a long while before finally speaking slowly. So, she had her own difficulties back then. Chi Yan couldn't help but laugh speechlessly. Did you even listen to what I said? I've never seen such a pure case of being love-struck. The next morning, I walked out of the study, feeling lightheaded. The new article I started yesterday suddenly began to get a lot of traffic, but I had no drafts prepared, facing the editor's urgent requests. I didn't dare tell her I hadn't even outlined the plot, so I hurried home from the set to write all night. I had arranged with the crew to bring the kitten for a screen test this morning. Glancing at the time, I mustered the energy to take a taxi there. Thanks to Chiyan's parting words yesterday, the crew was noticeably warmer to me today. The kitten was taken to shoot, and I was dying of sleepiness, barely hearing someone calling me, "Jiangwei, come sleep here." Okay. Too tired to think why Pei Wang's tone had become so gentle, I walked over and fell asleep on the lounge chair. When I woke up in the afternoon, a long men's down jacket covered me, awake. Pei Wang's voice was near my ear. I looked up to see him holding Yuan Bao, opening a can of cat food for it. Wait, when did he buy cat food? Yuan Bao, come here to mommy. The kitten heard but ignored me. Pei Wang had not only bought the most expensive cat food but also a large pack of freeze-dried treats, which the kitten was now devouring eagerly. You want me to sing a song for you? His voice carried a mix of amusement and affection, diffusing the awkwardness of my clumsy request. I nodded. Still slightly inebriated, feeling the warmth of the alcohol contrast with the chill of the night, Pei Wang adjusted his posture, cleared his throat slightly, and began to sing softly. His voice, usually commanding and assertive, now carried a gentle melody that filled the quiet space of my apartment. As he sang, the earlier tension eased, replaced by a comforting tranquility. The playful and teasing nature we usually shared was set aside, revealing a more tender connection. His song was a simple one, but in that moment, it felt profoundly reassuring. When he finished, he smiled, his eyes reflecting a sincerity that was both disarming and endearing. There, he said, hopefully that will help you sleep better. I couldn't help but smile back, touched by the gesture more than I expected. As he stood up to leave, I felt a pang of disappointment mixed with gratitude. Thank you, Pei Wang, I said, my voice softer than I intended. He nodded, then paused at the door. Turning back briefly, take care of yourself, Jiang Wei, don't make a habit of drinking too much, he added with a light-hearted tone, yet his concern was palpable. As the door closed behind him, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me, gratitude, warmth, and a surprising sense of closeness that the night had unexpectedly brought. Do you have any idea how expensive my appearance fee is per minute? My brain was especially slow after drinking, and it took me several seconds to comprehend his words. Looking into his eyes, I slowly responded, it's fine, I have money. Oh, Pei Wang chuckled lightly, I forgot, you're the young lady of the Su family. I looked at him puzzled, curious about how he knew who I was. The young lady's request is something I dare not ignore. He paused, then spoke in a slower, more coaxing tone. But what benefits would I get for singing to the young lady? Tempted by his charm, I said without hesitation. Anything you want, as long as I have it. Anything? He asked jokingly. Can I even ask for an Academy Award? That might be a bit difficult. I was a bit troubled, but it's not impossible. If I go back and beg my brother, he might agree. Pfft. The person across burst into laughter. Never mind. He looked at me with a smile, his tone so tender it was almost uncharacteristic. I was just teasing you. His familiar words suddenly reminded me of the love letter tucked inside the album. I looked at Pei Wang in front of me and suddenly reached out to hold his face. Pei Wang. Meeting his puzzled gaze, I murmured softly, can you stop disliking me? Pei Wang initially froze, then his eyelashes quivered. He looked down and remained silent. My heart suddenly felt sour, and I sniffled. That winter night 6 years ago, during New Year's Eve, were you cold? Standing alone in the square waiting for me? What were you thinking? Pei Wang remained silent. It took a long while, until I was almost dozing off, for him to finally respond. Yes, it was very cold. He spoke, his voice very soft. So, Jiang Wei, don't leave me in this winter anymore. I didn't respond, already asleep on the couch, but in my dream, Pei Wang didn't leave. Instead, he hummed softly, gently patting me to sleep. His singing was so tender that it unconsciously smoothed my furrowed brows. The last thing I remember was someone leaning close to my ear, whispering, baby. It must have been meant for the cat. The next day, my brain felt like mush from the hangover. When I woke up in bed, I couldn't remember how I got back to my room. There were several unread messages on my phone, from my brother, Zhou Yuan, and also Pei Wang. My brother's message was telling me he would be returning to the country next month. Zhou Yuan was asking why she didn't receive my New Year's greetings first last night, wondering if I didn't love her anymore. As for Pei Wang's, I stared at the message on the screen, suddenly feeling illiterate. Pei Wang, I made you a hangover soup, remember to drink it. I thought about it and tentatively replied to him, Jiang Wei, did I say something wrong again after getting drunk yesterday? Pei Wang responded immediately, Pei Wang, go ahead and drink it, I didn't poison it. Alright then, feeling reassured, I got up, washed up, and went to heat up the hangover soup to drink. As I sipped the soup, I began responding to unread messages one by one. After selectively ignoring a message from my editor that was disguised as a blessing but was actually nudging me for my draft, I habitually opened Weibo. That's when I saw a post from Pei Wang from 10 hours ago. Late at night, Pei Wang v. Urgent, how do you make delicious hangover soup? Looking at the comments, many fans shared their family recipes for hangover soup, and some were concerned if Pei Wang had drunk too much. Pei Wang replied to one of the top comments that showed concern, "No, it's a family member who got drunk, family, huh?" Looking at the bowl of hangover soup in front of me, suddenly it seemed more than just an ordinary bowl of soup. Damn, I even suspected Pei Wang of poisoning it. I'm really terrible, aren't I? 13, I had agreed to be Pei Wang's part-time assistant, so I continued to report to the set on time every day. Over time, everyone else also learned that Pei Wang and I were old classmates. During breaks, some would even gossip with me. People must have chased after teacher Pei a lot in high school since he's so handsome, right? I thought about it. Not really. I remember one Valentine's Day, many boys in our class received chocolates, but he didn't get any. He even asked me for some. In the end, I just bought a random piece from the store for him, and he was really happy. Wait, something seems off. I suddenly realized something. Would someone who usually receives love letters frequently not get any chocolates on Valentine's Day? I seem to have suddenly understood something. Just then, Pei Wang came back from filming, saw me still chatting with others, and frowned. Aren't you supposed to be assisting me? The water's gone cold. But I just looked at him, my gaze filled with silent accusation. Was the chocolate I bought on a whim tasty on that Valentine's Day in our first year of high school? Pei Wang, and where did you hide the other chocolates that people gave you? I suddenly feel that not everything should trouble an assistant. It's just hot water. I'll get it myself. After saying that, Pei Wang turned around to get the hot water. Meanwhile, I watched his retreating figure, feeling somewhat amused. So it was that early, huh? 14, on the day the filming wrapped up. My novel also just happened to conclude. Over the months, I had gained a lot, and the novel's data exploded in popularity after its conclusion. My editor told me that many people had approached her wanting to buy the rights, and she was in the process of screening them. On the day of the wrap-up party, I went with Pei Wang. As the year was drawing to a close, Ji Yan, although busy, also made it in person. However, I didn't expect my brother to come with him. Upon seeing Su Chang, I instinctively restrained the smile on my face and respectfully called out, "Brother, MHM. Su Cheng responded, then his gaze fell on Pei Wang standing next to me, and he frowned slightly. Seeing this, Pei Wang clearly became a bit nervous. "Mr. Su, hello, I'm Pei Wang, MHM. Su Cheng nodded slightly, acknowledging him. He was always reserved. 6 years ago, on that afternoon when he first knocked on my door, it was the same. As I was about to head out, I was startled to see Su Chang and his bodyguard standing behind him when I opened the door. "Who are you looking for? Who has come?" Curious as to why I hadn't made a sound for a long time, my mother came out of the kitchen to check on me. Her gaze froze when it landed on Su Chang's face. "Hello, I'm Su Chang." The man glanced around the room's interior, his eyes finally resting on my face, which bore a slight resemblance to his own. His expression flickered briefly. "Grandmother is seriously ill. She wants to see you and your mother." As he spoke, I saw my mother's face turn pale, her expression turning sour. Eventually, she nodded. "All right, I'll get ready." Thus, the plans I had to go out were abruptly changed, and I was taken back to the old Su family mansion. There, I learned about my origins from Su Chang, my half-brother from the same father. It wasn't as my mother had told me, that my biological father had passed away early, nor was it a mix-up like in the novels. My biological father was the only son of the wealthy Su family, and I was the result of his affair during his marriage. I was the proverbial illegitimate daughter, a being shrouded in secrecy. After following his family's arrangements for a business marriage, Su Cheng's parents' relationship cooled off within a few years. During a long business trip, my father had pretended to be single and dated my mother, which led to my birth. When my mother wanted to discuss marriage with him, she realized she had been deceived. With the Su family's significant influence, ordinary people couldn't possibly contend, and given my father's status, no one would believe she had been deceived. Eventually, due to her poor health making an abortion life-threatening, my mother was forced to give birth to me and chose to raise me alone. It was a cliché story, with the man responsible disappearing without a trace. When I was brought to the Su family home, I realized in my hurry I had forgotten my phone. Although the house was well heated, I sat outside the hospital room feeling a chill in my hands and feet. My mind seemed to stop working at that moment, merely absorbing information from the surroundings passively. I met my biological father and his wife. Su Cheng's mother was a beautiful woman. Facing her, my mother instinctively felt guilty and at a loss. "Mrs. Su," her eyes reddened, unsure of what to say, but Mrs. Su only smiled gently, taking her hand. "It's okay, I know it's not your fault. I don't blame you." She then turned to look at me. "This young girl really resembles our Chang, just like grandmother." She didn't say I looked like my biological father, only that I resembled my brother and grandmother. Beside us, my father frowned as if he wanted to object. The next moment, Su Cheng opened the door, and my father immediately quieted down. "Grandmother wants to see you," said Su Cheng. So I met my biological grandmother as well. I had only seen this woman in magazines and newspapers before, knowing she had built her own business empire and that public opinion about her was mixed, often focusing on her romantic history. Society always seems particularly harsh on women. It seemed that to outsiders, how she made her money wasn't as important as the insinuations that a woman's rise couldn't be without the involvement of men. But the moment I saw her, I knew she was not as the outside world portrayed her, because the look she gave me was so tender. She lay there weakly in the hospital bed, yet she was apologizing to my mother. "I'm sorry, I didn't raise my son well, which caused you so much suffering. It must have been hard raising a child on your own, wasn't it? As a mother, you are strong and brave." In just a few sentences, seeing her tears fall directly brought a heavy silence. For many years, she had been plagued by guilt and regret, believing that she had destroyed another family, yet no one had ever spoken these words to her. "What is your name?" the elderly lady asked me softly. "Jiangwei," I replied. "That's a good name." The old lady smiled. "Your mother has raised you well." After saying this, the elderly woman was visibly weak, but still mustered the strength to speak to Su Cheng standing beside her. "Cheng, remember, this is your sister. Your father is useless. The company will eventually fail under his management, so I've already prepared my will in advance. After my death, the company and shares will belong to you, and you can run the household, but the real estate and stores in my name, along with all my jewelry, will go to Jiangwei. You have no objections." "Right, I have no objections." Grandma, Su Cheng, who was raised by his grandmother, never contradicted her, only Su's father, standing to the side, dared not speak his anger until he burst out after leaving the hospital room. "What does mother mean by this? I am her biological son. Why does everything go to the grandchildren?" "Shut up, you still have the cheek to ask why." Su's wife didn't hide her disdain and disgust. "Marrying you was truly my bad luck. If you weren't Chang's biological father, even glancing at you would be bad luck." After saying this, she turned her head to look at me. "It was very nice to meet you today, little Jiangwei. If you need anything, just talk to your aunt and brother." "Oh, okay," I replied, stunned as I watched the scene unfold, feeling that this wealthy family was not quite as I had imagined. With his wife not supporting him, Su's father turned to look at my mother. Seeing that my mother also didn't want to engage with him, he exploded. "Why do you look down on me too?" Eventually, it was Su Cheng who walked out of the hospital room, and with one look, Su's father immediately fell silent. Then, Su Cheng took me to a medical facility owned by the Su family for a paternity test. Seeing that I hadn't spoken throughout, Su Cheng glanced at me. "Don't be nervous. The inheritance you are about to receive is no small sum. It's just routine." I numbly nodded my head. The wait was long, and even though Su Cheng had expedited the process, it felt like an eternity. Finally, when the fresh paternity test results were delivered to Su Cheng, he finally put down the document he was viewing on his tablet and walked over to me. "Let me introduce myself again. Hello, Jiangwei. I am Su Cheng." He looked down at me. "Your half-brother sharing the same father." Regaining my senses, I heard Su Cheng asking me, "I heard your novel is a hit. Are you interested in selling the rights?" "Whoa, little sister is quite impressive," Chi Yan said interestedly as he raised an eyebrow. "What's the name of the novel?" "I'll have my people follow up when I get back. Price is not a problem. It's more reassuring for us to buy and adapt it ourselves." In just a few words, it seemed that the matter was settled. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Pei Wang's gloomy expression and felt a tightness in my chest. "I do want to sell the rights, but I would like Pei Wang to play my male lead. Is that okay?" At this, Pei Wang looked at me in surprise. Su Cheng subtly furrowed his brow, while Chi Yan laughed. "Of course. That's fine." Then someone came to greet him, and Chi Yan raised his glass to mingle. The scene left me, Pei Wang, and my brother exchanging glances. Finally, it was Su Cheng who broke the silence. He looked at Pei Wang and asked, "Shall we talk?" Pei Wang nodded and said,
"Yeah."
Me, did anyone ask for my opinion? But I didn't dare to contradict my brother, so I could only watch helplessly as they left. Turning to my brother's assistant, "Do you think my brother will just hand over a check when he arrives?" The assistant pondered for a moment. "The president doesn't usually do that." "Oh, that's good then." I had no idea what they discussed, but after that day, Pei Wang went quiet for a while, and even stopped arranging assistant work for me. Until one night, a month later, Pei Wang and I suddenly became the subject of a trending topic. Somehow, someone had captured the scene of Pei Wang dropping me home that night. Even the headline was nearly identical to the nonsense I had previously made up. Hashtag Pei Wang's late night secret meeting with mysterious woman. Suspected romance exposed. Hashtag Pei Wang was at the peak of his popularity, his last drama having just wrapped up. This trend shot straight into the top 3 immediately. Casual fans and major gossip accounts began spreading rumors, and in no time, Pei Wang became the target of public scrutiny. However, before the uproar could escalate, Someone noticed the trending topic quickly losing heat, with many related entries disappearing in an instant. At that moment, Pei Wang's management company issued a legally stamped cease and desist letter. The astute onlookers realized something was amiss. What's going on? The heat drops so quickly. Could it be the work of Big Capital? Insider news? The woman's background is not simple. Can't say more. Alright, Pei Wang, you've really climbed high now, so? Is the romance rumor true or not? I'd say it's highly likely true. Upon seeing the trending topic, Zhou Yuan immediately called me. What's going on? Are you and Pei Wang together? No. I was really anxious now. Although I knew Pei Wang had taken me home that night, I hadn't expected to be photographed. If Pei Wang got into trouble because of me, it would be a terrible sin, no matter the cost. The trending topic had to be taken down. I was about to call Qi Yan when Pei Wang suddenly messaged me. Pei Wang, Jiang Wei, don't worry, I'll handle it. But I was even more worried about his future, and quickly typed a response. Jiang Wei, don't be rash, it's okay. For me to be discussed a bit, really. Pei Wang didn't reply. Minutes later, Zhou Yuan sent me a 10-second voice message of her screaming. Quick, check Pei Wang's Weibo. Instinctively, I opened Weibo, but the app was so overloaded it nearly crashed. 10 minutes later, when I finally logged in, Pei Wang's post had already blown up, because Pei Wang had shared our photo taken in front of the computer and openly responded, Pei Wang V, she is the one I've secretly adored since my youth, the one for whom I've striven so hard. Reading this post, I felt like a bottle of peach soda that had been shaken, bubbles of excitement bursting within me at that moment. I remembered the love letter that had yellowed with age. Years later, the love I couldn't voice before was now proudly declared under the sunlight. Ding, a message from Pei Wang popped up on my phone. Pei Wang, come downstairs. I almost leapt from my bed, threw on a down jacket over my pajamas, and rushed out the door. Only once outside did I realize it had begun to snow. Pei Wang, who had just been trending online, was now standing right before me in the flesh. I wanted to rush up and embrace him, but feared being photographed again, so I had to sneak over, constantly looking around as I approached. You, why did you come? It's so risky. Before I could finish, Pei Wang had already embraced me. Why sneak around? He said. I've already made it public. No need to hide anymore. Am I really that unbearable to look at? Oh, you should be more mindful of your actions. Don't get too handsy. I struggled a few times, but seeing that I couldn't break free, I was forced to just enjoy it. I buried my head in his chest and muttered gloomily, you know, I'm a fan of your career. Pei Wang raised an eyebrow. I thought you were just a fan of my looks. Am I that shallow? Oh, then who is it that has my photo in the most prominent place in the study? I lifted my head from his chest, feeling a bit embarrassed. Why did you go through my house without my permission? Some drunkard passed out on the sofa and never woke up. I had to at least get her to her room. How would I know which one was the bedroom and which was the study without looking? I couldn't argue. He had a point. Alright, you've seen me now, and you have work tomorrow, right? You should head back. Having been Pei Wang's part-time assistant for a while, I was well versed in his schedule. Pei Wang, are you sure there's nothing you want to tell me? I shook my head. Fine, then I'm leaving. Pei Wang seemed upset again. Though he said he was leaving, he moved incredibly slowly, making small gestures every 3 steps and turning back dramatically every 5 steps, and there I was, just watching his antics. As expected, Pei Wang, not getting the response he hoped for, stormed off in a fit. Jiang Wei, if you don't stop me, I'm really going to leave. I thought for a moment. Pei Wang, are you acting coy? Pei Wang didn't respond, his face turning red. Well, what could I do? Pei Wang, my cat can do backflips. Want to come and see? Pei Wang hurried back in a few strides. Let's go. I can't wait to see our Yuanbao do a backflip. A year later, the first television adaptation of my debut novel began filming. Pei Wang played the male lead. After the drama aired, what exploded in popularity before the plot was actually the theme song of the drama, Confession Letter, composed and written by Pei Wang himself, swept through all major apps that summer, becoming a viral background music. Everyone knew that this song was written by Pei Wang for a girl he had a crush on at 18. That year, there was a popular post online. To forget someone, do you forget their voice or their face first? The top reply was, neither. You forget their flaws first, but all I remember are your good qualities. Pei Wang said with a helpless smile. So, at 18, he wrote this song, remembering you bowing your head to write, the handwriting on your test papers so beautiful. Remembering you napping on the desk, your heartbeat audible even over your breathing, remembering every strand of your hair flying as you ran across the playground. I guess, that's what having a crush is all about. I remember all your looks, partaking in every moment of your youth. In the end, I could only stand afar in the crowd, listening to you wish me a smooth future. My debut novel's TV adaptation exploded in popularity with the boost from Confession Letter. Everyone knew that the original author was the girl Pei Wang had a crush on at 18. At the celebration party, fans jokingly said Pei Wang had finally climbed a high branch. To this, Pei Wang took it as a compliment rather than shame. After all, I really did aspire to reach for the stars. I laughed at his words. Miss. Oh no. I should say, esteemed author now? Pei Wang smiled at me, suddenly pulling out a ring and dropping to one knee. Would you give me this chance, after the shock With tears in my eyes and hand over my mouth, I extended my hand to him. It depends on how you perform, just kidding. In fact, from the moment I saw that love letter, I had imagined that this day might come. End of main text, extra chapter, Su Chang, the day Pei Wang won the Best Actor award. Qi Yan was the happiest person. You've always had an eye for talent, he said. He rushed to Su Chang's office. So excited he nearly bowed down in gratitude. I was hesitant when you first recommended him to me. But now it seems I was blind not to see the goldmine right in front of me. Su Chang put down the documents he was holding and, uncharacteristically, smiled. Our little sister is doing us proud, too. Her first novel adapted into a TV drama was a huge hit. Does your family have some kind of money-making gene? This reminded Qi Yan of something. I remember back when you were a melodramatic teenager. You used to say you wanted to be a writer, Su Chang, then in high school? When a group of girls were fawning over how handsome you were, you said you wanted to debut as an idol, Su Chang. Ah. How merciless the years are, turning you into the cool and aloof CEO. This time, Su Chang really felt a headache coming on. Having a childhood friend like this was a mixed blessing. He knew all your embarrassing history. You know my family's situation, Su Chang said calmly. Circumstances didn't allow it. Su family had only him as the heir. Raised by his grandmother and mother, he had many immature dreams in his youth, and both women never skimped on their praises. Growing up surrounded by the love of these women, he had to mature quickly upon learning that his parents had long been estranged and that he had a half-sister. Really? With your family's situation, any other rich second generation would not have been so tolerant towards a half-sibling. You are an exception, Qi Yan remarked. It's not their fault, Su Chang said softly. Being raised by two women, he knew the struggles they faced. Even someone as legendary as his grandmother was often talked about more for her romantic entanglements than her accomplishments. He didn't want his sister to go through the same. When their grandmother passed away, the Su family faced internal and external threats. Relatives were eyeing their wealth, and he had to protect his sister Jiang Wei by arranging for her transfer to another school later. When he learned she wanted to be a writer, he supported her fully. After all, she was his only sister. Speaking of which, what did you and Pei Wang talk about in private? Hearing this, Su Chang recalled the conversation and couldn't help but laugh. What did we talk about? I told him that Jiang Wei is the only girl in the Su family generation, and the dowry prepared for her is quite substantial. And then, did you ask him to prepare an equally substantial bride price? Qi Yan was already calculating how much Pei Wang had earned over the years, but no matter how much, how could it compare to the Su family's wealth? To this, Su Chang just chuckled. No, I asked him to marry into our family. What? Qi Yan was stunned, then he agreed without hesitation. Truly a hopeless romantic. Extra chapter, Pei Wang. 1. Jiang Wei transferred schools. Pei Wang heard the news while lying in bed with a high fever. On New Year's Eve, he was alone in the square, waiting from day until dark, until he finally sent Jiang Wei that message in frustration. Jiang Wei, I'm not waiting anymore. At that time, he thought she had just missed their appointment due to some last-minute issue, but he never expected that the next time he heard news of her, she had transferred schools. Just the day before, they had been dreaming about the future together, and Jiang Wei had even promised to be his agent someday. Little liar. Pei Wang had just finished an overnight shoot when he received an invitation to a class reunion. He had been incredibly busy during that period. Initially, he wanted to decline as he usually did, but after receiving a message from Zhou Yuan saying that Jiang Wei would also be there, he fell silent. After much hesitation, he finally asked for half a day off from the crew. The reason? To attend a high school reunion. Upon seeing Jiang Wei for the first time in a while, he intended to act indifferent and ask who she was. However, the moment he saw her tears, his heart clenched painfully. Why are you crying? As he asked. He instinctively reached out to wipe her tears, but stopped himself, remembering the setting they were in. Damn it, hadn't he agreed to at least give her the cold shoulder for a bit? How could he lose his resolve the moment he saw her? Pathetic. When dinner was nearly over, Jiang Wei stepped out, and he immediately followed her. So, when Jiang Wei emerged from the restroom, she found him with his sleeves rolled up, showing off his forearms, a cigarette in his mouth, and a mischievous look on his face. He had practiced this look countless times in front of a mirror for a role, knowing it made him look his coolest. Sure enough, Jiang Wei looked at him with a hint of admiration. The next second, she sneezed. Pei Wang, seeing her about to go back inside, Pei Wang grew anxious. Jiang Wei, if I don't come looking for you, would you never take the initiative to find me? Jiang Wei was momentarily stunned, but, you were the one who pretended not to know me first, yet. He just couldn't accept it. He couldn't bear the thought of being the only one trapped in those memories. Jiang Wei, do you even have a conscience? If you had even a shred of conscience, you would feel indebted to me, even just a little, please. He couldn't bring himself to say the rest and, frustrated, he ruffled his hair and strode back to the private room. Jiang Wei, wrapped up in a scarf, looked adorable, watching her exhale sharply, her bangs blowing straight up. He almost couldn't suppress his laughter. He managed to hold it back. Was he such a soft-hearted person? On the ride back, listening to Zhou Ge and Jiang Wei chatting in the front, he couldn't help but hum and haw. Until Zhou Ge got annoyed. Pei Wang, what's the matter with you? If you're uncomfortable, just scratch it. I'm trying to have a conversation here. Who are you humming and hawing for? After that, through the rearview mirror, he saw Jiang Wei slightly lift the corners of her mouth. She was amused by him being scolded. That made him unhappy again. When Jiang Wei got off, it just started to snow, a cold wind blew in, and he instinctively began to cough, after a severe illness years ago. His body became particularly vulnerable in winter. Initially, it was just a couple of coughs, but seeing Jiang Wei look somewhat distressed, he coughed harder. Then he heard Jiang Wei say, "It's cold recently. If your throat is uncomfortable, maybe smoke less." Zhou Ge, the big fool, immediately debunked him. What smoking? Pei Wang doesn't smoke. He's a public figure. How dare he smoke? If he gets caught, he'd be crucified. He kicked the front seat hard. His face red from coughing and partly from frustration. Shut up, I could smoke you. Thinking he had put on a big act, he didn't expect to have exposed himself instead. Jiang Wei had adopted a cat, named Baby. Pei Wang had never been so embarrassed in his life. Would Jiang Wei think he was being presumptuous? But who asked her to call out Baby in front of him? If the kitten's nickname was Baby, why shouldn't she call it? After much internal struggle, he finally called his assistant. Go. Buy some canned cat food and freeze-dried treats, the best ones. The cat was great. It would be even better if it recognized him as its dad. Then, through Qi Yan, he learned of Jiang Wei's true identity, a wealthy family's illegitimate daughter, a possibility he had never considered before. So, did she have her own difficulties from the beginning? Pei Wang suddenly felt deflated. What was he doing? He sulked on his own, never considering that she might have had her reasons too. The night he drove Jiang Wei home, he admitted he had his own selfish reasons, yet when Jiang Wei asked him, he remained silent for a long time. Was it very cold that New Year's Eve 6 years ago? He then tried hard to recall that snowy New Year's Eve 6 years ago. As he watched the crowd come and go in the square, listening to the couples next to him count down, what was he thinking about? Jiang Wei was almost asleep. He spoke softly, almost pleading. Yes, it was very cold. So, Jiang Wei, don't leave me in this winter anymore. Jiang Wei had fallen completely asleep, without responding to him, yet, even so, he still liked her so much.